Broadcasting live from the Business RadioX studios in Phoenix, Arizona, it's time for Phoenix Business Radio, spotlighting the city's best businesses and the people who lead them.
Hello and welcome to Phoenix Business Radio, broadcasting live from the Max 6 Entrepreneurial Center right here in Tempe, Arizona, where we help build businesses and connect you with the right people. And we're doing just that today with the team at On Point Impact. We have Stuart Wax in the studio with us today, as well as Deanne Palin. Welcome to Phoenix Business Radio.
Thank you so much.
So Deanne and I have known each other, maybe like 8 years, 7 years?
A week or two.
Just a little smidge of a time. And we've gotten to know each other better this last year. So I'm so thrilled to finally have you in the studio. Have you been on with us before?
One time.
It's been a while.
Yeah,
before
probably
the pandemic.
about 5 or 6 years ago.
Yes, well,
quite a
welcome
while ago.
back then. Love swimming the same pond with professionals like you. And when we talked about this opportunity to talk about On Point Impact and the great work that you're doing, it made sense to bring your co-founder, Stuart, with you. And we're meeting for the first time. So welcome to the studio.
Thanks so much. It's great to be here. Appreciate you having us.
Love it. So who and what is On Point Impact? Let's start there.
So On Point Impact is a company Dan and I founded probably a little over a year ago. We focus on business growth, primarily with privately held companies, and help them get through various stages of growth, achieve those goals through a variety of coaching services and methodologies that we've created with our past experience. We've been certified in and we bring to the table within our toolkit.
All right. I love that summary. Anything to add to that?
No, we love helping privately held companies grow. So you'll hear that passion today, and it's just why we came together. We share a lot of common values and complementary background, and it just became really obvious that we needed to work together. We've known each other since 2010, 2012.
Yeah, we were in Vistage together because we also believe in participating in programs and learning, and we instantly created a connection as friends, and we've coached each other over the years and mentored each other. And I sold my industrial tech company a couple of years ago, and Deanne was one of the first people I went to figure out what I was going to do next when I grew up. And we said we always talked about doing stuff, and we both have always loved coaching and consulting. And out of that, we birthed On Point Impact to really live our passion and help others.
So good. And what is your background, Deanne?
I spent about 25 years in corporate America, the last 15 as an executive doing turnarounds and business growth ventures. And in 2014, left head of operations for the Phoenix Suns after we had done some pretty significant work and build out there. Left and started my own company, which was On Point Business Solutions, and have done that for the last 10 years until Stuart and I combined his company, Impact Group Consulting, with my company, On Point Business Solutions.
I love that. Hence the name. Like that was going to be one of the questions, where the name came from.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's actually a really funny story. So as most companies, when you're starting up, you want to have the right name. Well, we grueled and toiled and just beat our heads trying to find the match between what was available in LLC and what was available in GoDaddy and domains, and never the two shall merge. And we were sitting there looking at our business cards and realized that our values are around being on point and having an impact. And we talked about that, and it was like, duh,
staring you in the face.
It was one of those eureka, can't believe it's a eureka moments.
We wasted a lot of time grueling, and we look back now and some of the names we were so upset weren't available. We really hate and we love the name because it clearly speaks to who we are, because it was from both of our individual companies, and it's so on point.
Yeah. So I'm thinking about your clientele. How often when you're working with them, do those types of things happen for them? They're all over the place. They're working really hard, and all of a sudden, eureka, like, oh my gosh, here it is all the time. And you've helped guide them there.
So often, we say a lot of times one of the best benefits of a really great coach is to uncover those blind spots and or to get them to realize and see what they already know. So whether we're working in coaching or full on metronomics or doing a strategic session or a boot camp, so many aha moments we hear back from those CEOs and their leadership teams if you step back, looks so simple,
Yeah.
but it's through that dialogue and the process and the way we work with them that all of a sudden it's like could have had a V8 moment and they're realizing whether that's about how they're managing their cash or is their strategy aligned or stuff on the people side, that a lot of it is very complex and we simplify it and allow them to have that, oh, look, put our 2 business cards together and we'll share it because we both have run companies and been CEOs, so we can empathize and we've been in their seat, which is, I think, another great value we bring to them because we can share our own stories of struggles and failures and
You've
weird
been
aha
there.
moments.
Yeah, you've been there, you've done that, and you continue to do that. We talked earlier before we even came on live around how you continue to coach each other, right? That's the great thing about, I think, a partnership like this. You hold each other accountable, you raise the bar for each other, you know each other extraordinarily well,
Yeah,
and you walk the talk.
Yes.
absolutely.
And what we own is that it's not our brilliance we're bringing to the table. We've got a lot of good years of background and experience and complementary skills and this incredible toolkit, but it's our job to uncover the brilliance of the CEOs we're with. And sometimes they just need perspective or a tool or a different lens to look through. That's what we bring to the table, and that's part of what we love the most.
On that note, where do you see that CEOs struggle the most in trying to grow their business?
It's a great question. The first couple of things that pop in my mind is there's a lot of theories and practice around different stages of growth. And many times that CEO, owner, company has gotten up to 5, 10 million, whatever, it depends what industry it is, where they grind and grind and grind. They've got that grit, they've got that great product or service, the determination, and they're able to get things going. And all of a sudden they went from 5 staff to 50 staff. They went from being just Phoenix to statewide or nationwide, or they added a product or a service. And there's that, famous adage, what got you here ain't going to get you there.
Is that true?
And it's so true in business, whether it's that person that had the label of CFO, but really had bookkeeping skills that could get you through that first phase, might not have the higher level financial skills and able to get you to financing or create the documents you need or have the strategic financing. Or sometimes maybe that owner is a great visionary and he's also being the implementer, or they really aren't the right one to be the CEO. So different stages of growth bring so many different challenges that typically you need different strategies, different systems, sometimes different members of the leadership team or additional functions on that leadership team. So that's one of the two jump in my mind. Other one is just they're either in pain or they see a great opportunity, or both. They're grinding away. They're not home. Their wife or husband or partner's unhappy. Their kid not seeing their kids, and they feel if they focus on the family, their business is going to suffer, and feel if they focus on the business, their family's going to suffer, and they don't know what to do. And our tagline for On Point Impact is grow your team, company, and your life. And we're so passionate about that, Deanna and I, and that's where we get a lot of fulfillment it's intentionally in that order, because especially the size companies we're talking about, you're not going to get there without a really quality team that's all aligned. Get that going, get that grown. That's how you grow your company. And when you get all this aligned, that owner, founder, president, CEO, head of company, they're going to get their life back. They learn that grinding isn't it. They can put their 40 or 30 or 50 hours in and have time for their hobbies, their families, their kids, their other adventures, what it might be. And that's when we have that significant other come up and thank us, or members of the team thank us, because that's really what it's all about.
What are some of the blind spots then and the hurdles in trying to grow businesses? And I ask that not only from a perspective of coaching business owners and leaders, also from your own experience.
We have plenty to share of our own experience. I think that's what makes a great coach, is that you eat your own dog food and you've been in your own pain. And one of the beauties of Metronomics is that you have to have run companies and coached for at least 5 years to be a certified Metronomics coach. And there's only 62 in the whole world.
Wow.
And I think that's for very, very good reason, because you saying that, what are some of those that you've done yourself? I think some of the hurdles are really believing that you can do it all yourself, and that, CEOs start companies because they're smart and they're not risk averse and they know they've got something, right? And they're hungry to grow it. And that is a beautiful, wonderful thing, and kind of the recipe for amazingness building a company. But there comes a point where that magic doesn't work alone anymore. You can push all the rocks, you can work yourself, work harder, work harder, work harder. And you get to a point where you're not enough. You've got to have a team around you. You've got to have a different level of smarts. You've got to have more hands to get the work done. And oftentimes CEOs, and I'll speak for myself, you have to come to the table and say, I may not be the best one to do this part of the business, or there's just not enough of me to go around. And that's a tough pill to swallow. And it's really, really scary. I mean, these CEOs invest their lives in these businesses and houses mortgaged and everything else to run a business. And they've got to be able to relinquish some control and trust. And, the best way to do that is to build a team. And the best way to build a team in a company is to have some help and support and peers and resources, including a coach, to do that.
How humbling that's got to be. I know from my own professional experience, there's many times I've been humble and have had to admit to myself and to others, I need some help here.
Yeah. It's interesting. A couple of examples when you said, how have we experienced it ourselves, that popped in my mind. And this is interesting on both who we helped and then how they helped us. So there's a amazing marketing company in town that we've taken through some strategic planning, coaching, strategic exercise, including, and this is an amazing marketing company, amazing leadership team, doing their own market mapping. So we're leading, and they know way more about marketing than us, leading them through that marketing exercise and getting out the core customer. And there was this huge resistance that they had multiple core customers. And we try really hard to get them to understand you want one core customer. And we actually got them there. And the appreciation and the power that was on them. So here it is, two great coaches. Neither one of us are of a marketing background, or we're marketing directors or run a marketing company, but because of uncovering blind spots, bringing that outside source that has some of the wisdom and processes, we were able to get this phenomenal marketing company leadership team to better understand something they do. And then I'll flip it. And we had that company help us. And here we are, the coaches, and we know this, and look what we did for you. And you're a marketing company, but we helped you. And it's kind of cool that we were able to do that. We recognized, comes to the humbleness, that here it is, two people have run companies, done coaching, helped companies scale and sell and everything else. And here we are starting on Point Impact, and we're locked and loaded, rearing to go. And we have our name and went through a rigorous process to get certified in metronomics, and we're out there. And we stopped for a while. We're not getting the traction we believed we would. And we recognized, we're not being us. We're kind of being salespeople. Nothing against being salespeople. And then working with the marketing company, we're sharing this, and they helped us realize we're not using our unique voices. We're not talking with the empathy and understanding that is how we approach things. So they helped us actually really narrow and redefine our core customer and the language we use. So we all, one of the points we make when it comes to coaching, because there are some leaders that, every leader needs it or could benefit from it, but they'll have resistance. What do I need a coach for? I've got 20 years experience, or I'm already at 50 million, or whatever it might be. I like to say the power of coaching is, if you look at elite Olympic athletes, whether they're individual ice skaters or tennis players or the soccer team or the rowing team or the NFL or NBA or WNBA, what do they all have? Not a coach, multiple coaches.
I was just going to say,
and these are the people that are at that top 0.001%, the elite of the elite, the best, if you will, CEOs of the world. And they've got those coaches because of this ability just kind of help you realize what's in front of you, see that wide open playing field, get a better vision, and apply different ways of thinking. So we both use that and do it, because we've been humbled plenty of times, even though this is our profession, where we have to coach each other, as you were saying, or we bring in somebody to coach us or to help us process something.
I value that a great deal, because we all have areas of expertise, and then we also have blind spots. And so just to your point, when there are multiple coaches for those elite clients, the folks that you serve as well, you may not fill all the holes and gaps, and you recognize and know that you know your sweet spot, you know your zone, you know where you're going to help and how you're going to help, and you've done it multiple times over. And I'm trusting that if there's a spot that it's out of your wheelhouse, you're going to refer somebody.
Yeah, one of our core values is humility. And it is really, really important to us that what we mean by that is that we stay wise in our craft. You know, we've both been in over 20 industries doing work and coaching. And part of the beauty of that is that it keeps you humble. You have to learn a new industry, a new way of working. But even beyond that, we're not in the shoes of the CEO. You know, we're in our own shoes with our own company, and we're humbled every day by that. But really where we can make a difference is meeting a CEO and their leadership team where they are, and helping them to be in a zone where we're pulling their brilliance out of them and getting that synergy and alignment with their team, and utilizing Metronomics. They're getting compounded growth. Many companies are getting 20 to 30% growth year over year using the Metronomics system. And it's a couple reasons. One is it's some of the best tools in the world to help companies align around Jim Collins' work or Lencioni's work. But the other part of it is you get to meet a company where they are and move them at the pace around the things they need to work on in their business.
That gives us kind of a high flyover around Metronomics. So for our listeners and viewers who aren't familiar with Metronomics speak, how would you define it a little bit deeper?
Sure. Great question. Real quickly, just going back to that last question about, we're not everything, which we are not. Part of our own BHAG, or Big Hairy Audacious Goal, if you read Collins, or this is incorporated Metronomics, is to be the go-to for mid-market privately held companies in Arizona. To be that, it's all the services and expertise and systems and programs we do. But we also recognize businesses are going to need some levels of expertise and outside consulting that either isn't where we want to spend our time or literally isn't our wheelhouse.
Mm-hmm.
So we are spending a lot of time, and have spent a lot of time, really honing in who are those business bankers and lawyers and business brokers and insurance that share our values, because we believe in connecting good people to good people who also happen to be at the top of their game. So we are continually honing, revising our referral partners, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not a financial arrangement. It's just part of our goal of helping them grow individually and as a company. So we do a lot of that work. Even sometimes for prospects, we're just meeting with them and they recognize they need something, and we're dishing them off. And we may never have them a client, and that's okay. We still feel good. We help them. They may circle back to us. They may not. So on to Metronomics. So Metronomics is a comprehensive platform that provides a whole lot of tools that we can use to help companies, regardless where they're at in those stages of growth, to help them grow. We looked at, when Deanna and I were forming On Point Impact, we knew we have great leadership experience, business experience, coaching experience, but we really wanted to find something to differentiate us and really help elevate us from where we are to the next level. So we looked at a lot of the more commonly known systems out there that are all solid and can help businesses. And Deanna had actually met and talked with the founder of Metronomics, Shannon Susko. So she was really impressed. She gave me the big heavy lift book. It's about this thick, and
it was a test.
I'm just a little bit type A. So I devoured it in a couple of days, reread it again and highlighted it. And I said, Deanne,
this is it.
You're right. This is it. And what we love about it, well, quick on where it came from. So Shannon had started a company. She's in Canada, in Whistler, raised a lot of money for it. So had a board of investors, and she was almost fired because she had, as you do when you raise money, promised the world. And all of a sudden she had to deliver that world. And all of a sudden she was going, oh no, or some other word. And she is a type A, high level athlete, brilliant person. And she just devoured and started reading all the leading thought leaders, as Dan was mentioning, and not only didn't get fired, but grew that business, ultimately sold for a pretty penny. She then started another business, applied all that she had learned, her own systems and all these leading thought leaders. And in a very short period of time, 3, 4, 5 years, I can't remember, She grew that business and set a Canadian NASDAQ for the highest multiplier ever. It was 60x. It was,
Wow.
I think, a multi-billion-dollar sale. So
In
after
3
that,
or 4 years.
in 3 or 4 years. So after that, all of these CEOs and business are going, Shannon, can you come coach us? And she really didn't. She knew the success she had, but she hadn't thought of that she
From that lens.
from that lens. So she's, I guess someone probably, she was close. She goes, I'll try. And then in that process, she realized I really have something here. So she wrote a couple books, formed the company, really stuck it together, created software to support it. So one really cool about Metronomics, it comes from the experiences, pains, failures, successes of a founder, a CEO that had to save her ass.
Mhm.
And then really devoured. So Metronomics approaches growth through human, cash, execution, strategy. We could go on for hours about it. But what's really neat about it, it continually evolves. Every year, new thought leaders come up with new material. It gets added in. So it's not a stagnant system. It's a system and a process and a tool that refreshes itself every year, allows us to meet companies where they're at, what their needs are, and customize it. It's not a plug and play, but we now have like 100 arrows in our quiver that we didn't have before, that we've both said, man, where was this when I was running a business? It's a real powerful system that really ups our game and be able to help companies.
And the certification or licensing process, pretty robust, pretty heavy. I mean, you didn't just read the book and go, yeah, we're there. We can do
wish.
this.
Oh, it was over a year of, we interviewed to be coaches. And then we went through a process. We had to be fully certified in the software. That was honestly really hard, but the easiest part. And then we spent a ton of time learning the craft and having to practice the craft, doing practicums in it, taking an actual certification test, sitting in the room and training. It was a really, really rigorous process. And, while we pulled our hair out, and I probably dyed my hair more often during that period than ever, and Stuart lost all of his.
Yeah, you said this beautiful huge head of hair.
but while it was hard, it's also so invigorating to be on the other side of that. The pool of coaches that we work with are the elite of the elite. There's 62 in the world, and most have been CEOs and run companies before. All have coached for at least 5 years. We've all been through this process, and it's probably one of the most amazing cultures we've ever worked in, and it's super aligned with what we do. So we're really proud to be a part of that team, and we're the only two, in really the Southwest doing this work.
Impressive. So when you're working with clients, speak a little bit to what that looks like. You mentioned Arizona just now, Deanne, but Stuart also mentioned mid-market businesses here in Arizona. Is this an in-person experience? Is it hybrid? How does that work when you are in relationship with your clients?
Yes. And I think yes.
Okay.
So our main focus is Metro Phoenix in Arizona.
Okay.
We can, by how we conduct business and the way Metronomics, we can do this anywhere in the world. We do have some clients, a handful of clients in other states currently. Mm-hmm. Our preference is when we do stuff to do it face-to-face. It's more who we are. We think there's a really high value in it. So a lot of this is relational and building that trust, which you can do virtually, but it's a little more challenging. So we prefer doing everything we do face-to-face. One of the prime areas of service we do is coaching, executive coaching, either with the owner, CEO, or CFO. That's probably the easiest thing to do in Zoom. And we even have some local clients that prefer Zoom. Many of them still like to do it face-to-face. So we provide executive coaching to CEOs and leadership teams. We provide strategic planning, and this is a great time. This is when companies should be now into the fall getting ready for your 2025 year. So we do anywhere from usually not less than a day to 2 days, strategic deep dive planning sessions with the CEO and their leadership team. And really, they walk out with not a pretty binder to put on the shelf, but actionable plans that go into quarterly sprints and your number one top priority and metrics that'll be measured and accountability. So they walk away with not just a plan, but a really actionable plan. We also will do full one-on-one with a company, bringing in metronomics, where we start out with a lot of prep work, a 2-day deep dive with that whole leadership team to kind of get the alignment going, figure out that vision and purpose all the way down to that 1 year highly achievable goal. And then we work with the CEO every month. And then once a quarter, we do a deep dive, and it's just a continually evolving cycle that goes on forever because they continue to grow and our services continue to serve them. We're launching this fall something we're calling Growth Labs.
Yes.
Which is, we're really happy about this. Clearly, we haven't launched yet, so we can't speak of the experience of those participating. But we started looking, how can we kind of go one to many? And we looked at all the things we've experienced. Deanna has a lot of experience running roundtables, peer groups. We've both been in them, and there's powerful stuff. But we said, what's missing? And then the key differentiators or things that we saw were missing, as powerful and great as all those are, is one, they involve usually just the CEO or owner. What we're doing with Growth Labs is it's going to involve that leadership team. So kind of a similar tempo as we do with that metronomics implementation, where like the quarterly tempo is first month of the quarter, we meet with each, let's say we have 6-7 companies in there, all 6 or 7 leadership teams work on their strategic planning, their execution, kind of getting that rhythm. And then those month 2 and 3, we're meeting with just the CEOs together. So you still get some of that camaraderie, confidentiality, peer CEOs who really understand what it means to and feels like to sit in that seat. And then we go back to the whole team, and our focus on everything we do is growth. Like, we will guarantee with our Growth Lab participants, their companies, once that foundation is laid, will see growth. So we're really putting this forward, and with all the work we do, with a real ROI, not just feeling better, which is important, developing a comrade, a group of peers, which is important as a value, but we want them to walk away, and they've now been doing this year, and they can show their numbers, speak to that they've actually seen their companies grow. So that's a new service we're going to be adding this fall. I don't know if I left anything out, but
well, I
ahead,
think to give a little backstory on that, this is another example of Eureka moments. We started doing boot camps early when we started our company, and the goal was to test our craft, to prove it out, and also to get our brand more known, so that people could see us doing this work and realize the impact of it. In the first boot camp that we put together, we were a little nervous. I mean, just being honest, we're inviting 5 companies and their leadership teams into a room to experience this process with us leading them through this deep dive, strategic planning. And we weren't sure how it was going to go. And we also were really sensitive to the fact that they might have financial information or, gaps or holes or warts in their company that they wouldn't necessarily be happy to share. And so we managed that really carefully, where they had the opportunity to do the work and then share what they wanted to share and nothing more, right? Well, as we're working into the day, they're sharing more and more, and they're visiting each other's stuff, and they're, oh my gosh, I didn't think about that. Let us go apply that over here. And there was just some really, really neat outcomes. And when we got the testimonials from those couple of boot camps, rave reviews for not just the content, but the ability to be with a peer group. And so having done roundtables, having both of us been in roundtables, there's so much value in being in a peer group and having that thinking and being challenged. But us having been in roundtables, we always went back to our executive teams, and they're like ducking for cover, Oh my God, what did they
go again?
Yeah,
Flavor
what
of the
do they
month,
have
yeah.
this week? And so we decided that we're going to take the best of both of those things and give them the peer support and the resources that we have and we can bring to the table. I mean, we have amazing partners, and that's the loneliest thing with the CEO, is knowing, who do I partner with? Who's the best banker? Who do I trust to broker my business? Who can help me with tax credits for whatever, right? And so we want to bring the peer group, and then bring the shared learning and accountability with the executive team. So we really feel like we've cracked a code here, and we are so stoked to get this started.
And I'm guessing that there is a special skill set between leading these mastermind groups, so to speak, and also being able to have the same level of confidence and expertise to then work with those individual CEOs and their leadership team. I can't imagine that every coach or consultant can sit well in both camps.
Yeah, it's a great point. I think we're fortunate from the very experience that Deanne and I have. And I will say a lot of the training, that long, painful, arduous, costly metronomic certification training, it definitely 10x'd our game.
Mm-hmm.
Great book. If anybody hasn't read it, it's 10X is Easier Than 2X by Dan Sullivan and Ben Hardy.
Life-changing.
Life-changing. If you haven't read it, so we don't get any proceeds, but both for any business leader personally and for their company, the best book we've read in a long time. We applied so much of that book. I know I'm going off a little tangent here. We were at a coach's training, and Ben Hardy, one of the co-authors, spent almost a full day with us. And this whole concept, which we build into almost everything we do, of not building towards your future, but your future pulling you forward. And that's how we approach coaching. That's how we approach, and how you eliminate that 80% noise and really focus on that 20% and raise your floor. A lot of that work. So a lot of the tools that we have from our past experience running companies, doing one-on-one coaching, running roundtables, masterminds, being in them, and then the great toolkit of process, system, and coaching approach we've gotten from all of our study and from Metronomics, I think gives us, and it is unique. We're not the only ones, but I think it is a unique craft, and I appreciate you bringing that up, that can marry and synergize that individual one-on-one coaching, the multiple people in a room processing all that, and kind of keeping all that together. So we're fortunate to have that training, that learning, and those experiences to enable us to do this.
And one thing that I personally will share, the first time we did the boot camp, we weren't sure how we were going to synergize together, or whether we could, or what bumps we would run into, and if we would talk over each other. You have to kind of work that out. And we thought, but we got in that room and there was so much flow. And I think a lot of it comes down to, we have really, really strong experience between the two of us, different experiences that are very, very complementary. So it's easy for us to pull on each other when we know that the other person's got the skill that we may not be as strong in. And then on top of that, our value system of, one that we share is respectance, respect and acceptance, really
I like
not
that.
just of each other, but of our clients, and being humble and transparent and allowing people to find their own space. We do that with each other, but we do that with our clients. And so the kind of wonder twin powers of us has really come to life, and it's been way easier than either of us ever imagined.
That's when you know it's magic.
Yeah.
Seriously. So true. We didn't know. We had known each other a long time. We had never worked together, let alone facilitated 5 companies in this new process. And seamless might be a little bit of a stretch, but it really felt darn close, and it felt seamless. And we've gotten from that and from other stuff we do together, and we meet with clients and prospects. There is a super twin power, and the sum of the parts is greater than the equal, or I just totally butchered that quote, but it really is true. We're blessed that together those synergies are another great differentiator for us. Because we really are partners in what we do. Deanna will have clients, I'll have clients, but she might be working through something and come to me, vice versa. So there really is, 2 minds and 2 bodies of all this experience that are working together for all of our clients.
Our clients get a twofer.
Yeah.
All these terms, I feel like I need to start a little dictionary.
We make up our own words on a regular basis. We misspell a lot too.
Yes.
I love it. Let's talk about strategy and execution through the lens of accountability, and really, is it data driven? Are there metrics? How do you help people? So, and the reason that I'm asking that question is, I've led teams as well, and I'm all around relationship first. And also at the end of the day, we need measurables. So can you speak to that a little bit from the work that you do with your clients? How are they able to scientifically or through the numbers be able to say, oh, not only does this feel good, we're hitting our marks.
Yeah, it really is a beautiful marriage between strategy and execution. And a lot of the systems that we had looked at have one or the other that are pretty strong. And they also miss culture and cash, which are the other two major components of what we do. And what's really phenomenal about this, you can have the greatest execution in the world, but you can execute yourself right off a cliff, if you don't have the right strategy to tie it to. And Stuart had spoke about creating that big, hairy, audacious goal. And then we create the 3-year highly achievable, and it's financial, non-financial goals. And you're tying numbers, and you're looking, through this process very carefully at how money flows through your company, and what you're creating and what drives accountability. And then that's tied down to every single executive on the team and ultimately throughout the entire company. But what is really amazing, and the thing I think we both are so excited about as a CEO running companies, and even as a consultant working with the CEOs, for a lot of years it was like spinning plates or whack-a-mole, right? Where you're working on culture one minute and you're working on cash the next, because you need to invest in this new strategy, and you're trying to scale, and we don't have enough people, and we're not sure this product line is still good. What do we do there? This system ties a bow around all of that and keeps you focused on, do we have enough cash? Do we have A-team players? Do we have the right execution? Have we set those metrics correctly to achieve the 3-year goals that we want? There's no guessing. There's no wondering. It's super pragmatic and not overly designed. It's a very simple, smart way to execute a business.
And I would just want to add real quickly to that, to all the wonderful stuff Deanne said on that accountability. So it is, a lot of that first year, a lot of what we're doing is working like, the 5 dysfunctions of a team, but making those functional, because you have to have that trust and that confidence and constructive critique and all those different elements. Otherwise, none of this accountability matters. But also what we do is we have a software called Metronome that creates this open playing field where when we work on the 3-year plan, then the 1-year plan and the quarterly goals, there's widgets or KPI, if you will, for all those key those key goals. And there's ownership and accountability, but that's open. And then as the company evolves, it starts with just a leadership team. They can get it down to the management, all the way down to the, if you will, the line staff, depending what their structure is. So there's shared accountability, shared vision of that playing field
all the way through.
So now it's not about, that you map out. We do a thing where we map out everything that impacts cash called the key function flow map. And you put bars on, red, yellow, green. That none of that's new. But just because something red, let's say that Stuart's in charge of this aspect of sales and it's red, that doesn't necessarily mean Stuart's dropping the ball. It might, but you kind of see all the inner workings, and you can create really meaningful conversations, hopefully when it's yellow before it gets to red. So there's ownership and accountability, but not blame, unless it's that case where really blame has to be laid, if you will, if you have a B or a C player. So there's a lot of accountability put into the work we do, especially after we build that base layer of trust and communication, so it can really be seen as a strong positive. And everybody's rowing, everybody's measuring, everybody's celebrating.
I spent 10 years running a consulting practice, helping businesses scale and turn around and prepare for sale, and loved that. But the one thing that would happen so often, and frankly was job security for me, is, marketing didn't talk to sales, didn't talk to production or implementation. And there were these wild throw them over the fence kind of things. And, I would come in and set up a technology roadmap with them, or I would really work on that marketing to sales to implementation handoff. And it was very, very tactical and always good outcomes. But what this system does is it forces that connection and that alignment in a way that I've never seen before, and just creates this amazing, not just accountability, but synergy across leadership teams where they know exactly how they help each other and they know exactly how they can get in each other's way. And so it just creates this really healthy environment of growth.
Mm-hmm. It also sounds like it takes the personality and the learning style and work style out of it enough to assess it and evaluate it so that it's not so personal.
Yeah, very
Exactly.
well said.
How important is that?
That's huge. We all know people are people, emotions are emotions, and whether it's culture index or strength finders, there's a reason those are all wonderful tools. Because the three of us in this room, if a challenge was put on this table or we're all gonna emotionally and psychologically and even intellectually process that different. We're gonna communicate on different. We're gonna want to hear things in different ways. So it's super important. That's where all that work on the human side. But what's nice about this, and I think what Deanne was hitting on, that's still super important. We do that work. We bring in others to do that work. But when it comes to those goals and the processes, it's cleaned. Everybody's aligned. This is our number one priority for 2025. And it's literally one priority. And then there might be a 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's alignment on that. There's alignment on this is our profit per X. This is the widget for sales and for accounting. So it's all alignment. So those numbers are real. They're agreed upon. They're shared. And it's mapped out where there's synergies. And you kind of can talk about you're stuck. Oh man, I'm not hitting this because, or I need this. So it takes a lot of that blame game while still keeping ownership and accountability to it.
Well, it goes back to what you had said a few moments ago around if there is need to say, hey, you're not performing or you're not the right fit. Now you can have that intelligent conversation based on the impact study and what's happening right in front of you without, again, making it personal,
Right.
so that there's room for, if that person can grow, they now can own it and grow with your guidance
Right.
and as well as their leadership team, or they may not be a great fit. And it makes sense to either have them self-select out or someone's removing them.
Yeah,
recast them.
It really does shine a light on where the problems are, whether it's performance or alignment or whatever. And we talked about Lencioni's work being really kind of fundamental in here around cohesion and alignment. And one of the key elements or key stages of building trust on a team is clear roles and goals.
Mm-hmm.
And accountability, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the ability to kind of work through conflict. And having a system like this takes the heat out of the personal stuff. It makes it really clear about what I expect of you, what you expect of me, what my measurables are, so that we can have a conversation about the stuff, not the person.
Mm-hmm. Powerful. I think, Stuart, it was you that mentioned B and C players. Are there such thing as A players? And if so, what is the difference? And do we want all three on our team, or do we want all A players? It's just a language that I'd like some more familiarity with.
Great question. So there absolutely are A players, there absolutely are B players, and there absolutely are C players. We don't go to D, E, and F. We just keep those three, A, B, and C. And basically the curve you're looking at is performance and culture. So you picture a little graph. The high bar here is culture. The high bar here is performance. And those A players are going to be in this quadrant right here. High on performance, high on culture.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you want. And the first place we start in a leadership team cannot have anything but A players. A B plus is not good on a leadership team because they will not work well with A players. And then as you cascade down, that A player won't work down. C players, you don't want at all. A C player will never, and there's lots of science behind this. It's not just Stuart and Dan saying it. A C player will never, ever, ever become an A player.
And they'll never hire an A player.
And they'll never hire. They'll only hire other C players that want to work around C players. B players can become A players. It's work. They have to want to. So A players, heck yeah, let's make sure we keep them and give an environment they can soar as A players. Let's make sure, especially on a leadership team, they're only surrounded by A players. C players, let's really make sure we carefully evaluate and then, yes, cast out. You don't even want to cast them to a different position unless it's just on the culture side and maybe a different position raises that up. But by and large C players. And those B players, it's really, why are they B? Are they short on culture? Are they short on performance? Are they a little short on both? And what is that coaching development plan and that timeline for them to get up to B plus? You will never, if you have anything more than 5 or 6 employees, you're never going to have 100% A player. It's probably impossible to do. But you want 100% A player leadership team, and then you want everybody else be striving to move to A.
And this isn't naming the person as
Right.
an A player necessarily. I mean, sometimes you might be a C player at one company and an A player at another, or a C player in a role, but you're an A player in a different role. And our work with these CEOs is getting really clear about what seats do you need on the bus, and then who's your A player that's going to help you just knock it out of the park in terms of company growth, because you can't get there without A player leadership.
And when you're having these conversations with the CEO, is there a metrics that you use, or they just have off feel? They're deciding who's A, B, and C.
With the methodology we build around the functional org charts, the function flow map, the metrics that we build, the accountability and the visibility and the transparency, it comes to life. There's nothing superficial or personality driven around this. It's about the work, it's about the alignment, it's about the culture, and it's about the outcomes.
And we'll literally have the CEO rate the leadership team. We'll have the leadership team rate that mid-management. And it's hard to hide, because usually whether it's on the culture side or performance or both, it's either immediately self-evident or pretty quickly self-evident. So there's some actual exercises, and a lot of it is just the discussions, and through the transparency of what we do, for those it needs to be obvious to, it pretty quickly comes to light.
Which is refreshing.
Yeah. Unless they want to be in denial, and then there's not a lot we can do for them.
Yeah.
And honestly, we're talking about kind of the downside of this, right? Letting a B player go, or the lack of alignment. But what's really, really, really amazing is all the positive growth that goes on when you get clear roles, clear goals, you get alignment and collaboration. It changes the whole culture.
Yeah.
And talk about why you get compounding growth. When you've got a leadership team that wants to be together, wants to do the work, and knows where there is, and they're all on the same bus getting there, there's nothing more invigorating than that, right? You don't want cement around your ankles. You want to be with peers that want it as bad as you.
Excellent.
Yeah. We could stop there, but we're not going to. Can we talk about the cash part of this? I think you said there are kind of 4 components or pillars, whatever. We spent a lot on the other 3. Let's talk about cash and the importance of that. I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer, but for listeners and viewers who are listening and thinking, I've never thought about hiring, an outside executive coach for what we're doing, and yet we know that we're kind of stuck at this level and we're ready to take it up a notch. Where does this cash?
So it's interesting. Well, if you just hear it, it's kind of intuitive. Well, of course we need cash. We've talked to other metronomist coaches that do a lot on the cash systems like we do, that most companies actually spend very little to no time on cash. They'll talk about revenue. They'll talk about profit. They'll talk about ARR, MRR, all these things that are important to measure, and funders want to see them, and they look good, and they're important measurements. But at the end of the day, what's going to allow you to invest in your company? None of those numbers. It's going to be your cash in the bank. What's going to allow you to get through that downtime? Cash in the bank. So we go through a lot of exercises. The first is we'll just ask that leadership team, and they're not allowed to cheat, how much cash do you have in the bank today? And usually the CFO will come close and nobody else knows. We'll say, what's your cash? Not your profit, not your revenue goal. What's your cash goal for the year? And so far, we've not come to a leadership team that actually had a cash goal. And these are small companies to real big companies that are truly run by brilliant people doing wild stuff. But cash has just never been something to focus on. So the first part of what we do is just build that awareness that cash is a super important thing to know, to have goals on, to track, because you can have a profitable year and have no cash. You can have a deficit year actually and have a lot of cash. All depends. So we'll help then determine cash goals. And then I think we mentioned real quickly this mapping we do, the key function flow map. where we literally go through internal and external things that impact cash coming in, cash going out. And we map out the synergies of those and interdependencies of those and ownership and key measurements. So now they actually have a system that they can keep red, yellow, green, and really know how they're doing on driving. Are they going to attain that cash goal? And they're going to be focusing on cash every month. How are they tracking? Where do they need to change? Go back to that mapping. And including when I was a CEO and I had my bumps, but a lot of success. I will say I would have failed that test, if you want to call it that. I looked heavily at cash flow, always had a good idea how much cash we had and thought we were going to have, but I didn't focus on what was really driving the cash. I focused on what was driving the revenue.
We now understand the phrase cash is king.
Yeah.
We really, really get it now. And, you can't grow a company if you don't have cash. You can have great strategy. You can have great execution. You can have a great culture. If you don't have cash, there's nothing to grow with, right? And so cash is a critical piece of this.
Mm-hmm. What have I not thought to ask that you feel our viewers and listeners who would be potential clients would be interested in knowing about either On Point Solutions, On Point Impact with solutions, I should say, with the right solutions.
Good recovery.
Yeah, I had to look at your shirt to make sure I had the name right. What have we not shared that you feel like, this is their first time being introduced, the two of you? What else do they need to know?
There's one thing we haven't said that I think is really critical to our business model. We work a lot with nonprofits as well as privately held companies, and there's two reasons for that. One is they're companies, like they're nonprofits, but that doesn't mean not for profit. Their reason for having a profit is to serve their mission, but they need to be really clear about cash and culture and outcomes the same way that a business does. And there's a lot of big and small nonprofits that need this stuff as much as a privately held company, in some cases more, right? Because they're driven by purpose, and sometimes the revenue, cash, culture goals don't get paid as much attention to. And so we do a lot of work with nonprofits for that reason. And because several of those nonprofits are also part of companies, the members of those boards are part of companies, and they want to know that that nonprofit is aligned and achieving the kinds of outcomes and looking at it through the lens of success and growth.
And being able to speak the same language. If they're a client of yours for their business and they also serve on a board, and the board is now speaking that same language and the nonprofit is running with the same support that you are, how wonderful is that?
Absolutely. And we actually have some clients where we're doing work for the nonprofit as well as some board members own companies, which is great for us, but also really synergistic because they're kind of all drinking the same secret sauce, if you will. Mm-hmm. And then they actually have those alignment because they're having those same ahas. So I'm really glad Deanne brought that up. I mean, it's part of our business model, but it's incredibly rewarding work because there's this illness, and I've run nonprofits. There's this illness that many nonprofits suffer where business is a bad word, cash is a bad word, profit is a bad word. And the reality is all those are wonderful, beautiful, powerful words for that nonprofit to grow and be successful. So we tweak depending on what the nonprofit's revenue stream is. We might tweak some stuff, but by and large, when we're coaching that CEO or executive director or doing that work, it's the same thing. I guess the only other thing that I would share, and we kind of touched on it, is we really understand what CEOs and business owners are going through. I can remember starting my last business and going months and months and months and paying people and not paying myself, and the struggle, and are those projections going to hit? And rarely, because you kind of went in optimistically, do you really hit the numbers in those first couple quarters you thought of? And it's challenging, it's taxing, it's stressful at home. You have feelings of guilt, you get imposter syndrome, so many things that can come, especially in those early stages, or being a CEO of a large organization that's been around for a long time, the loneliness that comes with that, the risk and misunderstanding when you're working with a board. So we, in addition to our experience, the great tools we talked about specifically and primarily with the metronomics that we bring into it, we get it. We've had the bumps and the bruises. We've had the panics and the stresses, and we've had it affect our own personal life. I went through a transformation when I was doing a turnaround in Minneapolis where, I was raised work ethic and grind and make it happen. And I was doing a turnaround and we were being successful. And I was putting my, 80, 90, whatever ridiculous. Our kids were little, luckily I recovered soon enough. Barely ever saw my wife, barely ever saw my kids. And actually turnaround was good. And we were now humming, but I couldn't stop. I was in my office at 6 a.m, didn't leave till 8 o'clock at night. Started not feeling good, health started declining. And actually my story is I went to my doctor and, the blood pressure, mercury burst through the top, every bit of bad news. And he wants to start writing the prescriptions. And I said, Doc, probably not a good plan, but, let me handle this. And I started by just attacking my health, but this is one of the saddest and most powerful leadership stories I've personally learned. I've always, and from my heart and soul meant it, believed in kind of flattened out cultures who no one really needs a boss. Do what you got to do. Work 2 hours, work 20 hours, go spend time. I preached it and you could have put me in a lie detector and I would have passed it. But what did my staff see? Me there at 6 a.m, me there till 8. And all of a sudden by first just approaching my health, starting to go for a run in the middle of the afternoon, changing my eating habit. I don't know how. I wish I could package this because I would start this business. All of a sudden some gears changed in my mind. And I had some coaching through this process, both business and personal coaching and fitness coaching, that all of a sudden, before, even if I had nothing I had to do at 5 o'clock, I couldn't leave. I left at 4 o'clock. Not only did I don't say reunite with my wife and kids, because, well, they might say it was that bad. I wouldn't, but that was huge. And luckily the kids weren't too old when I recovered from that. But all of a sudden I started seeing our leadership team, our manager, anybody that didn't have to be at a desk at a certain time, basically, they started like taking 3-hour lunches. They started going to their kids' events. They started not showing up till 10. They started leaving at 3. And everything I've been preaching started happening. And I will tell you, our productivity went up, our revenue went up, everything went up. And I realized accidentally, what a hypocrite I had been, unintentionally, because I, to my core, meant what I was saying. And a real powerful lesson of the unintended consequences of leadership. And that's really stuck with me. So that's just an example, if you will, of the personal empathy we can bring. Because I know for a fact, I am far from the first business owner or CEO that had to have either a health scare or something else trigger them and have, fortunately, the right people around them. And then all of a sudden you look back and you're like, holy shit, that wasn't good for anybody. As much as I was being successful and stuff was working, it really wasn't.
And how many stories do we have of successful business leaders and owners who haven't had that evolution, and they've either committed suicide, ended up in divorce, had to fold the business, had some sort of
health crisis
that they couldn't recover from. I think we have, sadly, more of those stories than we have these beautiful success stories.
So true.
And you're talking about an evolution. And I love that you've brought us back around to one of the comments that you both shared early on in our conversation around your tagline, that word life. You got your life back.
Yeah. 100%.
And not only did you get your life back, your family, right, had that as well. And also you got to influence, whether it was intentional or just vicariously, the rest of your team began to have their life back. And you mentioned how important it is, right, that the growth continued to happen for the business, and you met your goals and exceeded them.
And I would say Stuart's story is not unusual. It's very, very common. And we want to grab CEOs and their executive teams before they're in crisis. Sometimes it takes that pain to make us realize there's value in having a coach, value in having a process, but we don't want to get you when we have to scrape you off the floor. We want to be there to help you flourish, grow your team, your company, and your life is truly part of our core. And, you have to spend some money and some time building this team. You have to make sometimes some tough decisions about what you continue to do or not do. But the value is beyond measure. The companies and the impacts that we've made, our joy comes in seeing them get their life back and watch these companies sell for multipliers they could have never dreamed of. It's really exciting for us.
And serving their mission and purpose, not just for the nonprofits you work with, but most of these, if not all, at least my experience has been when I'm working with C-level executives, there's a passion, a purpose behind the product or the service that they provide. And we get lost in the weeds of that when we're not hitting our numbers, or we don't have enough cash, or we don't have the right team on board. We're scratching our head thinking, why the heck did I even start this?
Karen, it's exciting that you said that, because whether it's a strategic session, even probably coaching or doing the Metronomics course, one of the first and biggest processes we do is around, it's all part of this BHAG, this big, hairy, audacious goal, but around purpose and values. And this is primarily what we work with is for-profits. And it's powerful stuff, because without that, nothing else really matters. And it is that driving force that pulls you, and companies walk away from that feeling so much more unified and good. Because yes, you want to grow, you want to 10x your revenue and 10x your cash, and ultimately build a legacy business for your family, or sell at a multiple, or whatever those financial goals are. And they're all wonderful goals. But now you got something to be aligned to. There's a reason, we share, what's the pink Cadillac company?
Mary Kay.
Mary Kay, their BHAG and their purpose was not to sell a lot of cosmetics. I'm going to butcher this, but it's basically to give women entrepreneurs an opportunity to improve their lives. I don't mean it's powerful. And so when you line that purpose up, it creates real magic and positive pull for the leadership and for the company and for everybody working in it.
Yeah. I promised you that the hour would go quickly. Indeed it did.
Has.
And it has. I have so enjoyed this conversation with both of you. And Deanne, I'm just really happy that you said, let's have this conversation on air, and that you were thoughtful enough to bring your partner, Stuart, and to share more about your company. How do folks get a hold of you? What is the website?
Very simply, onpointimpact.com.
Awesome. And you're both on LinkedIn?
Yes, we are.
Okay. So Deanne Palin and Stuart Wax.
Yep.
Ta-da. That's super easy. Although it's WACHS.
That is correct.
Very good. So find them on LinkedIn, as well as onpointimpact.com and OnPoint Impact on LinkedIn as well. Really such a pleasure to share your story today, and looking forward to your ongoing success with both the nonprofit part of what you're offering, and then what are we calling the growth labs?
The growth labs.
Yeah.
Oh my
we're
gosh.
super excited. So call us about those.
Yeah. Is that the deal? It's just an inquiry. Call us, email us, let us know that you've heard the show, and let's have a conversation.
Absolutely. And we'll see if the growth labs are a good fit for you. You are for that. And if so, we can, start talking about which growth lab we get you into and how we get started. But we're looking at kicking it off sometime this fall.
Oh.
Yeah, we're taking applications now for that process. So we're excited about it, and we're really looking forward to it.
So good. Thanks again for being here. You've been listening
Karen.
to Phoenix Business Radio, broadcasting live from the Entrepreneurial Center Max 6 right here in Tempe, Arizona. Some media lean left, some lean right, and we leave On Point Impact. Until next time, I'm Karen Owicki. Thanks for listening.